Welcome to the Football Historian Podcast.
By all means, enjoy it.
He will go right to the very top.
Dos, tres, cuatro times.
Here we go, Germans.
I will turn these results round.
All right, that's good manners.
There's animosity, but there's no fight.
If you can't beat them, join them.
How do you make me feel sick if I look at you?
No, I want to fight here. Don't drink, don't sleep with women, don't drive fast cars.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit too!
Hello, welcome to the Football Historian Podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by Danny Davies. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's your second visit.
It's a pleasure to be back. I was amazed by the setup last time. It's just still the same now. I love it.
Chaotic this time.
There's a few less people. I've already nearly flooded the place. I've spilt my drink twice on the table. But we're here.
We did it off camera. It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. No one's seen it. We'll edit that bit out. We'll clip that bit out. Just cut that.
Right, so as I said to you before, it's a slight change of structure, and that the stuff that used to come at the end is now coming at the start. So I'm going to hit you with big football questions from the off. So the first one is, what's your first memory or first experience of football?
My first, I remember when I was a little kid, like I'm talking like a little kid, I had, I think we're doing 3 or 4, so it would have been about 2000, 2001. I had like the Liverpool kit, and I used to, in my nan's old house, I'd have a little football and I'd kick it against the back door in the kitchen, pretending I was Michael Owen. That's the very earliest memory of football that I've got.
Yeah, what a shame. It's him.
I know. Of all people, to be honest, it could have been anybody, but it's Michael Owen, which is terrible.
Mine's the same. It's Worthington Cup final 2001, him scoring.
Yeah.
Actually, FA Cup final, so he scored against Arsenal, and then being him in the garden.
It's so sad how he turned out, isn't it? It's so sad.
Scumbag. But anyway, we'll move on. What's the best game that you've ever seen and best game you've ever been to? It can be the same or it could be different. Whatever.
I think the best game of football I've ever watched has got to be, like, I could go with the biased choice and give some Liverpool games, but the best game of footy I've ever watched was the World Cup final just gone, the most recent one. I think that's one of the best games of footy you'll ever see. Yeah. And the best game I've ever been to, I'd say atmosphere wise, I went to, because I don't get to the game as much as I'd like to, so I've not got a vast array of choices, but one that stands out to me was I went to a home game against Ajax in the Champions League a couple of years ago, and I just remember the last 10 minutes, the atmosphere in the ground was unbelievable, so I'd say that probably stands out there.
Joel Matip, was that one that he scored at the end?
No, I think I might be getting my wires crossed with the Milan game, but I think it was Henderson who scored.
Yeah, that was like 3-2.
It was something like that. It was that Milan. Yeah. Oh no, I might have got the two mixed up there, but it was that one. Yeah, but I went to Ajax at home as well, and I remember that being a really good game. The atmosphere, as I say, the last 10 minutes was unbelievable. I can't remember who scored. It might have been Matip.
Yeah,
but good game.
You scored, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So football then, how much you go to the match? How big is football for you?
I'm a big supporter of Liverpool. Like, I'll watch all the games. Like, I think I probably go to, on average, I'd say about 5 or 6 games a season. I try to get as many as I can. Like, if one of my mates who's got a season ticket's not going, I get the ticket. If a ticket comes up, I'll buy a ticket. But I watch all the games. I'll just get to the ground whenever I can. But I think, I think I think anyone who's a footy fan, it's big for everybody, isn't it? Like, if you're into the footy, it's like it can ruin you. It can ruin a week. It can dictate how you're going to feel for the next few days. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then obviously we'll go on to a bit more later with comedy as well. Obviously, you're a comedian. We've had a few people in. We've got Rob Thomas, who deliberately tries not to talk about football, he said, and then we had on loads more who were not ashamed of showing their colours, like say a Will Smith, whatever, who happily wear a Liverpool shirt. Kyle Legacy's
funniest man in the world, isn't he?
But they're like, there's different approaches to it. When say you're in Manchester, would you happily go on with a Liverpool shirt? Do you not try and get football involved in your comedy? What's your approach to it?
So, to be honest, I don't really ever touch it. Like, I just think because even like, especially if I'm in Manchester, but you can go anywhere in the country. You can do a gig in Liverpool, and if you've got an audience of people who just on that night aren't particularly football fans, or like maybe they do support another team, it's like if you do it and there's a Man United fan in the crowd, there's going to be some dickhead chatting shitty for the next 5 minutes. But then if you're anywhere else, you might just not. You could be doing a football joke to a room of students who don't watch the game at all. So it's like I just don't really send a touch. Yeah.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, the next one now, obviously, you said you're a Liverpool fan. Your top 5 Liverpool players of all time. If you can go 5-1, that'd be better. But I don't
5
mind
to 1.
1-5.
5-1. Okay, I'm gonna knock that again. I caught myself that time. 5-1. I'd say 5. I don't know if these are necessarily the best, but these are just my favourites.
Well, I'll let you know. Yeah, everyone will disagree with you, so maybe add some type of line. It's people you've seen live or your favourite players.
I think the best player for me that I've seen live. Okay, no, but I'm going 5-1. So I'm going 5-1. I'd probably have to say number 5. I'd probably, just because of the amount he's won with the club. I know it's he's a bit of a controversial figure at the minute, but I'd have to say Trent. He's won everything with the club. He's still only 26. He is a Scouser as well. So it's like,
that's a good one.
Yeah. And then I think 4. I'd probably have to say, you could go way back if you go looking at like records and goals scored. You'd probably have to put Rush in there, and then I'd say 3 probably Suarez. 2 I'd say Salah, and 1 I'd have to be Gerrard.
Yep.
Yeah, I think trying to be as unbiased as I can, and also trying to be respectful to some of the players who like from years ago. Obviously, like I didn't watch them, but Ian Rush is the top goal scorer of all time for the club. I think he's got to be in there. I think you can't really argue against Gerrard at number 1. Some people might, I don't know.
Oh no, I think he's definitely. Try not to interrupt you. You played it for, but of course, Gerrard. I think it's Gerrard and Kenny are the top 2. It's hard for people who haven't seen Kenny to pick him. Obviously, Ian Rush's record. You see how unbelievable Salah is, and then Rush to still be that far ahead of him.
It's crazy. I mean, I know people always say, well, like the game's evolved and it's changed since then, but you've like how many has he scored? It's over 400, isn't it?
Rush, yeah. So I think, is he on the 300 something like that? I think, but I might be wrong as well. But I think Salah's like they're closing in on 200 odd. He's over 200, sorry, and then Rush must be over 400. Whatever. Should know, but yeah.
Put it up on the screen somewhere. Yeah.
I'll dub my mouth over. But yeah, as you say, it's for those records to still be getting chased down shows how good he must be.
Yeah, definitely. When was he playing? Was it 70s, 80s?
Yeah,
and no one's ever really even came close in all that time. I think it's
miles ahead. And then, so you put Salah and Trent are still playing. What do they have to do to climb up that list?
I think for Trent, all he's got to do really is just stay. I think if he finishes his career at Liverpool, and he's with the trophies that he's won he's still won more than most players who've ever played for the club. Salah, I think, again, if he stays, because you don't know at the minute what's happening, but I think if Salah stays, and even for another 2 years, and he can stay relatively close to his form that he's been in for the last 8.
Yeah.
Say he wins another Premier League, potentially another Champions League. I think I don't know, because obviously people say it'd be recency bias and stuff like that. But I think that there's definitely if he finishes his career, or at least stays another two years or so, when he wins another couple of major trophies, maybe another domestic trophy, I think he's got a very genuine case for being the best player that's ever played for the club. That's my opinion anyway.
No, of course, I think there's plenty of people thinking the same thing as well. I think that's fine. Right, the next one then is the top 5 players of all time. So I try and say don't pick any Liverpool ones in there.
Yeah.
And you can go 1 to 5 if you want to. This one's a bit harder, but just the top 5 players you like watching.
I don't know. I mean, they might not necessarily be the best, but I mean, some of them are definitely up there. But obviously, I think as well, with any, you've got to just take into account players who you loved as well. I think the best player of all time, it's Messi. It is, isn't it? I know people will argue Ronaldo, but it's not the case. It just isn't. I think Messi's probably he's at number 1. I think you've got to put Ronaldo number 2. I think realistically it is. And then 3, just because of me sheer love for him as a kid, I'd have to put Ronaldinho in there. I was the whitest kid in the world ever, and he had me thinking like,
Yeah, I think
I'll play for Brazil one day.
That one,
he was unbelievable. He was phenomenal. I wanted his haircut and everything when I was a kid. I was like, I don't even think that's appropriate now.
Still trying,
yeah, I'm going for it. Do you know what I mean? I'm getting there. I'm nowhere near. I mean, I'm terrible at footy, but I'm growing here. Number 4, I think. Again, I think you've got to still look back. I think probably number 4, let's put Maradona.
Yep.
5. There's so many options. You'd have to probably put Zidane, I'd say. I think Zidane's probably in most people's top 5 somewhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's a preference thing or just because of how good he was, but I think he's definitely got to be in there.
Yeah, I think I've put it again. Is he on your mug?
He is.
I think it's subliminal that every time I put someone on the mug, he's on there. Yeah.
You've been brainwashing me since I got
Every
here.
time I put a mug on, it depicts someone who's on there, yeah.
I mean, he makes the top 5, definitely. He's getting Europa League, at least. At least.
And then the next one then is another tough one. It's if you could make an all-time 5-a-side team. So this can have Liverpool players in.
Okay.
You can have whoever you want, current, past, whatever, living or dead. Who's the best 5-a-side team of all time?
I think if you're serious about winning stuff, you've probably got to stick with players who are living. I think if you want to take the team as far as you can get them up to 5-a-side ladder.
It's hard for dead players to do much of it.
There's just going to be a liability. Will they pay the subs? You never know. Right, the first one I'm putting in there, I think, especially for 5-a-side, it's got to be Ronaldinho. I think he's probably the most exciting 5-a-side player ever.
Yep.
I think you'd need a Gerrard in there. Because the 5-a-side's scrappy. You've got to have someone who can put a challenge in, and do everything else as well. But I think if you put him somewhere in the middle, he's scoring. He's setting people up. He's definitely not letting anybody get round him. You've got to put a defender in there as well.
Yep.
There's options. There is options, but I think you've got to go with Van Dijk. I think 5-a-side. Given how good he is on the ball.
Yep.
He's agile for his size. I think he'd do well in that setting. A goalie is a tough one. Because
you don't have to have one. You can have 5 minutes in goal each if you want.
I don't think that's a very good system. I never like playing that. Whenever I played 5-a-side, I think when you're swapping the keeper now, you leave yourself a man light outfield. They could bring a goalie. So, it's... I think Neuer. I think Neuer would be a good option, and then personally, I'd go with another midfielder. I'd play a sort of diamond formation.
Got Ronaldinho up top.
Yeah, he's just up there. You let him do his thing up there. I'd say Kaka. I always liked him when I was a kid. I was a big fan of him. He was one of those players I loved him when I was a kid, and I think. Thinking 5-a-side, him and Gerrard in the middle running things.
Yeah. See that video of him when he plays in London?
Someone's telling him to cut back. It's one of the funniest things. He's cut back. It's like, shut your mouth.
He kicks off and he just bangs in top corner. Yeah.
It's the stupidest thing in the world. It's whatever he's going to do, he's thought about it 5 steps that way.
Yeah.
He's got... I love it though. I love the audacity of it. He's seeing his name in lights. He was probably running right off the middle, and he thought, if he cuts this back and Kaka sets me up, I can tell the boys about this forever.
Probably less people talk about it than what he did, though. To be fair,
yeah,
made it even better.
I don't think it's going to be great PR for Kaka himself, but you've got a story in the pub for the rest of your life there.
Yeah, he should have passed it.
Yeah. Great goal though. I mean, it was a fucking finish as well. So when you see the clip, it's a fucking finish.
Yeah, it's a good one. Right, so we have some debates that we've got to settle now as well.
Okay.
So we're going to go straight into them as well, if that's all right. So we have a little quick transition.
Mm-hmm. The debate.
There it was. It's good, that one.
We're in.
That was Peter Girardi's voice.
I like that.
That was good.
I like that.
Right, so the first one is, I know who you're going to pick, but I have to ask anyway. Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, and in which order?
I think it's an obvious one. I think third Scholes, second Lampard, I'd say first Gerrard. I think there's people who could be fans of other clubs who will disagree, but realistically, I don't think that's ever really been a debate. I think time's sort of settled that in its own way. I think it's a very clear. ranking there.
Yeah, well, we have a little score and this will also be in this corner here.
Okay.
And he is miles ahead at the moment.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I do keep asking Liverpool fans to come and sit in that chair, so that probably has some impact on it.
There'll be a bit more
The
diversity.
Everton fans I've had in, I think we've had 3 and 2 of them have picked Lampard. So, and then United fans have all picked Scholes.
I think Lampard's definitely got a case for it. I think if you look at the trophies Lampard won, he won the Prem a couple of times with Chelsea as well.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a case for him, but I think ability-wise, you'd probably have to say Gerrard.
I'm not going to disagree.
Yeah, of course.
The next up, again, you've already mentioned one of them, so I know you're going to pick, but Pele or Maradona?
I think purely because of the era in which Pele played in. I'm not saying what he done wasn't impressive. It's like I probably couldn't do it. Don't think anybody, many people even could. But I think Maradona played in football was a bit, the standard of the game was a little bit better, and he was doing crazy things. I think Maradona, personally.
Yeah. I think he's also just when that's the closest one.
Yeah.
The next one again is a bit comfortable, and I think again I know you're going to pick is Messi or Ronaldo.
I think it's Messi. It is.
Yeah.
Again, like I said with the Gerrard and the Lampard thing, Ronaldo's got a very good case for it. He's won more than most players who've ever played the game, but ability-wise, Messi, I'd say.
Yep. Right. And then, if they are the best players of the last 10, 15 years, who's the third best behind them two?
That's a tricky one. That is a tricky one because there's so many. Like, there's players whose numbers are ridiculous. Like, I think a lot of people, especially people under the age of 30, would probably say Suarez. If you look at his goals and his assists, he's the only one behind them in terms of goal involvement, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I think
while they're at the peak, I think he definitely was as well. Yeah.
But then you've got players like Neymar who had maybe a bit of a shorter peak. Like in his prime, I think he's as good as anyone. But he didn't do it for as long. He went to PSG, I feel like he sort of wasted his prime years at PSG. Yep. There's so many options as well. There's so many players who've. I think for me, honestly, I think I'd have to say Suarez. I think there's goals and assists and what he won. Even when he wasn't winning trophies, but he was playing at Liverpool and he wasn't exactly winning all the trophies. And I think he won a Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
But the things he was doing, like. It was unbelievable. Even if you've only got to look at his goals that he scored only against Norwich, and you wouldn't have to watch any other. He scored the array of goals he scored against them alone. I think you're not finding a player who's. I think it was his tenacity in it. He was horrible, and he was brilliant.
Yeah, I think obviously being a Liverpool fan makes a difference because he's a player that you'd hate to play against and watch against.
100%.
When he plays
100%.
for you, obviously. We both saw him, probably wasn't even at his best, which is scary.
Yeah.
And you realise how good he is, and obviously you like to have those type of people that wind everyone else up on your team, which obviously probably helps.
Yeah, I think Neymar's definitely got a shout for it as well. I think obviously being a Liverpool fan might be even subliminally influencing me there, but I think Neymar's definitely got a shout for it. I think. I don't know, I feel like over time that might change. Obviously there's players like Mbappe who's at Madrid now. I think over the next 5-10 years that could change, but at the minute I'd definitely say Suarez.
Yeah, that's all good. Right, the next one then is who is the greatest football team of all time? So an easy one for you. So this is in terms of like it can be a team for a season or like a team over a World Cup. So you could say the last World Cup, Argentina, something like that. So not like a 1 to 11, but like the best team that you've seen from any era.
It's difficult not to say 2019 Liverpool. I know it's not true, but it's difficult not to say it. But I think there's either Barcelona when they were under Pep Guardiola. There's the Real Madrid team that sort of when Pep left Barca, and I think Real had a few. If I might have got this wrong, but I feel like I remember when after Pep Guardiola left Barcelona, Madrid had a few fucking really good. They didn't win the Champions League like 3 years in a row. I think that Madrid team's definitely possible. I know it might not be a popular answer as a Liverpool fan, but I think United when they were under Ferguson, they were crazy good. I don't think you can include City under Pep because obvious reasons.
Which are
financial trickery, let's just say. I know. I think they'll get away with that as well.
Oh yeah, they will. Well, we should say a time of recording. What is it? Mid-January.
Yeah.
I would fully expect that they're going to get
especially given that Haaland's just signed a new contract.
Yeah, and they're signing everyone for loads of money.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that if... Or there's a big financial embargo coming and they have to spend it quick. That's the only other thing.
So then they just... Yeah, that's possible, you know.
But, yeah.
I think the best team of all time... Can you argue with Madrid winning 3 Champions Leagues in a row?
Well, exactly. Best and best to watch are two different things. With Guardiola's...
That's true. That is true.
Are both great to watch, but
yeah,
if Real Madrid always found a way, then surely they'd find a way, wouldn't they?
Yeah, so. Yeah. I think it's that's a similar sort of thing. Like, it's a similar argument people say between, they obviously, I don't know how frequently you use Twitter, but there's that debate ongoing at the minute between, like, people saying Hazard, people saying Salah. People go, well, was Hazard better to watch? Possibly. Salah's scored more, assisted more, so it's one of them debates. I think people watch football differently as well. Like, some people will, I think, try to apply it more logically and say, like, well, he scored more goals, they won more, whatever. But then there is players who they're just unbelievable to watch. Same there is with teams like Pep's Barca. I don't think they won as much. I mean, they won a lot, but I think Madrid over that.
But he won more European Cups, Madrid, definitely. Yeah. So, yeah. I think if an episode of Emmerdale's better than the Titanic one time, it doesn't mean Emmerdale's better, but you might have had a great time.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It could have been an unbelievable episode.
When the plane crashed. And
the Shadrach's returned and everything. It's like, whoa. But yeah, I don't know. I think Pep's Barcelona, they were probably better to watch. I mean, they were unbelievable at times. Like, you watch some of the football they play is phenomenal, but I think to win the Champions League 3 years in a row, when, if I'm not mistaken as well, the team that Barca had when Madrid done that wasn't too different to the team that Pep managed. I know some of the players might have been older, but it's, you know.
Yeah, I would have thought it, but I think one of them was against us, wasn't it? So it would have still been messy times, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think obviously I agree with you that the football Barcelona played at times is probably more pleasing to the eye, but I think winning 3 Champions Leagues in a row is unbelievable. I think it'll take years for a team to do that again, if a team does do it again, to be honest.
Okay, that's a good argument. Right, well then the next one is the greatest manager of all time. Easy. I'm not saying it is. I mean, good luck.
Okay, I'm interested. Before I say anything, I'm interested to know who you think it is and why. Because if you ask the questions, got your answer.
I've never been asked before the manager one.
Because again, I think
the arguments are your main candidates in our lifetime would be Ancelotti, Guardiola, and Ferguson. They're your top 3. As much as I'd say Klopp's up there as well. I think if
he
you
is.
look at what they've won.
Yeah, you've got to look
at
like
the entertainment that you still get from a Guardiola means that he can argue with the entertainment and the trophies. I
think there's an argument against Guardiola though, which some people say it's a lazy argument, but I still think I do still think it's true. Obviously, every team he's been at has been
boss.
Yeah, they have been, definitely, but he's also the money that he's had to spend. So it's like, not to say I think Klopp's I'm not saying the answer's Klopp, but to just use an argument that I think a lot of Liverpool fans use is, could Guardiola have done what Klopp done with Dortmund or with Liverpool on the same budget?
Yeah, which you don't know is the answer.
You don't know. Yeah. You'll never know, I think, because, I mean, it's taken nothing away from Guardiola. He's won everything with everyone, but he's always had seemingly like a bit of an endless checkbook to just get whoever he wants in, and if a signing doesn't work out, we'll bring somebody else in. It doesn't matter. But again, he's won everything everywhere he's gone. I think it's between him and Ancelotti personally. And
who's the winner?
I think you'd have to say Guardiola. I think. Yeah. I'd love to not say it as a Liverpool fan, but he's every club he's been at. I know he's obviously he's had the money to spend, but he's still won what he's won.
Yeah,
and it's like difficult to really root against that.
Yeah, it's not fun to agree with you. When it probably is right. I think, but yeah, there's still time for Onslaught to get in that conversation.
All day, yeah, absolutely. If he wins us at least one trophy by the end of the season, my answer, I'm letting bias take over completely. My answer's changing altogether.
Right, the next one is a tough one, which is we haven't asked everyone.
Okay.
Feel free to pass.
Okay.
But the most overrated player of all time, because I will guarantee that whoever you say, many people will disagree with you. But just some of the names we've had have been more controversial, whatever. Like we've had Pele and Messi have come up in that they're both not as good as people say they are. We've had Juan Sebastian Veron was one of the most recent ones we've had.
As the most underrated player.
Overrated.
Oh, okay.
So like people who like Nemanja Vidic was mentioned, Zlatan Ibrahimovic has been mentioned. So.
I think Ibrahimovic is a good shout. I did that was one of the first names that came into my head when you asked the question. I think that's definitely a good shout. I mean, I know I'm not saying he's shit, but you look at some of the teams he's been in, he's never won the Champions League. I think that a lot of the reason some people might say Ibrahimovic as well is because he comes across as a wanker. Like he's an unbelievable footballer, but if you're in your 40s and you're referring to yourself as a lion, do you know what I mean? It's like, well, you're not. So what's that about? Yeah. The most overrated player of all time is such a hard question. It really is such a difficult question.
You can put Zlatan in if you want that to be your answer, that's fine.
No, I think I purely have to say it because he won a Ballon d'Or. And he should never have done is Benzema. He won a Ballon d'Or, didn't he?
Yeah, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, like, why? The season that he won the Ballon d'Or, he had an unbelievable season. But I don't know. I think you could have. I think the time that he was at Madrid, I think you could have put 80% of strikers who played in like the top 5 leagues in Europe at that time in that Madrid team, and Madrid would have still won what they won.
Yeah, okay.
And I think purely on the basis that he won a Ballon d'Or,
I think he was probably looking at everything he's done. He probably deserves to have won one at some point. So this feels like a good time because Messi and Ronaldo aren't as good anymore. So
yeah,
like one of them. But yeah, I know what you mean.
I think he's. As I say, I think you could put most strikers, most strikers who score 10 goals a season at least in that Madrid team at the time. Benzema was there, and I think Madrid would have still. I don't think they'd have particularly missed him if he wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Good. Well, that's the end of our debate. I like there's a new one in there. Salah, Hazard. We haven't had that before. Yeah. I'm guessing you picked Salah.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah. I think. Do you know what? One thing though, I wanted to get your opinion on.
Yes.
Because I've said this for years, and I've had people agree with me, I've had people disagree with me, and I think it'd be nice to see what other people think as well. Now, I believe, and I'm not saying this as a Liverpool fan. I promise you, I am saying this as a football fan. I am not saying this as a Liverpool fan. I honestly believe that if Daniel Sturridge wasn't so cursed with injuries, he had the potential to be seen as the most technically gifted English player of the last 20, 30 years.
Okay. Yeah, but it's thinking against it is what of counter arguments have you had?
So the most common one people say is, yeah, well, he played with Suarez.
Yeah.
Which he did, and that's a valid point. But
but when Suarez wasn't there for that, he had the longest ban, didn't he? Already
Yeah. Probably did.
Liverpool was still right up there. He scored goals. There was a run of like 5 games in a row where it was 1-0 Sturridge. Just
and I think if you look at the way he used to score, his finishing was unbelievable. If you look at some of the goals he scored at Liverpool, his finishing was phenomenal.
Yeah, that Europa League final goal, the outside of the foot,
unbelievable. I never thought he played football like he was English.
Yeah,
I think he was. I don't know. I've always thought it. He was. I just think he was such an exciting player, and I think the later you go into his career, if he wasn't injured so frequently, and it wasn't like he just took a knock and had a couple of games out. It was his hamstrings, I think it was. He was out for long spells. But still, when he played, he was unbelievable. And I think, to use the argument that people have said to me that, oh, he played with Suarez, so to use that, to try and sort of reverse that argument, if you will. It's not like he was just in the team with Suarez. He was like, there was games where he was right up there on the same page as Luis Suarez, the way they played off each other. And I think a lot of the times, I don't think Suarez would have been able to have done what he done without having him up front with him, because the link up play the two of them were capable of was phenomenal. Yeah. And I just think, I've always thought this, and I'm so glad I've said it. I'm so glad I've got it off my chest. But I honestly
don't forget he played in the Klopp team. He was up front with Salah, Mane. He scored against PSG this season. Liverpool win the European Cup. Yeah. I think he came on that game as well, I think, in the final and all that. So he was an important player past the Suarez era. I
think by the time Klopp got to Liverpool, I think the injuries had already done.
Yeah. But he still had an impact, though.
He was still capable of scoring.
Chelsea away and all that. He had that. Yeah. And then add on what he did for England. I'm not the biggest England fan myself, but the Wales goal and all that, they have massive contributions.
Do you know what? I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Now, this has just come to me head, so let me just think about it for a second to make sure I actually... Now, I know a lot of Liverpool fans might disagree with me. Especially a lot of younger Liverpool fans might disagree with me as well, but I think Daniel Sturridge was a better footballer than Jota is now.
Football, I think that's not a bad show. Jota is... Well, to be fair, Jota's driving runs are great, but I think, goal scoring wise is what Jota comes in with. I think Sturridge could do the link up, the skill.
Yeah. I think, because if you look at Jota as well, I love Jota, but he does me head in, because similar with Sturridge back in the day, he's so good, but he just never seems to be available when
most infuriating about both of them, though. As you say, there's a big game, and someone goes through 1-on-1, and you know they've scored it, but they're sat in a suit and they've got another sore ankle or whatever.
What do you think of Nunes? Because it's such a...
Again, we have to mention time of recording. He's just scored twice in the last minute.
He has. Every time I'm done with him, he gets me. He gets me back in every time.
I'm a massive supporter of him, to be fair. But the last of, again, at time of recording, is that he plays under Arne Slot, who never bought him. All the coaches there never got him. The people who hired him at the club are no longer there. Yeah. And he's playing in a system that he wasn't supposed to play in when he got brought in. So if he doesn't work in that, is that his fault? No. Is it Slot's fault for not being able to get the best out of him? Probably not. So the most sensible option would be then see how he does and probably let him go in the summer. But if he then comes on the pitch and scores twice against Brentford, and he has got that in him, that's why we all sing Nunes and scream at him, then there's obviously something there. But as you say, I wouldn't be in a rush to get rid of him, but if you start getting money near to what we paid for him, you probably can get a better option, and maybe not even in terms of a player, in terms of someone who can come in and make a bigger impact. I think he'd be like Lukaku at Everton, in that Lukaku looked like an absolute world beater, and he still is a world class player, but if he was at another team when everything was about Nunes, I think Nunes would be unbelievable. I think it'd be one of those things where we'd let him go, we'd probably go to like a Milan or something, and he'd instantly become a 20 league goal a season cycle, and it'd be the most infuriating thing in the world to watch. His highlights where he does that against Brentford and not see the header he missed 5 minutes before that no one talks about.
I agree. I think purely because of how unavailable Jota is. Personally, I think depending on how Nunes does for the rest of the season, depending on Jota's fitness and I know a lot of people are saying like Nunes could be going in the summer, but I think if Nunes can stay fit and score goals, I think it's just as likely that Jota leaves in the summer, because Jota's 28 now as well. Yep. So he's getting to a point where if he's not had a good history with injuries when he's been in his early to mid-20s, what's he going to be like in his late 20s, going towards 30? Yeah. I think if Nunes can have a really strong second half of the season, I think, given he's only, is he 24?
He's 25.
25?
Nunes, yeah.
I think it might be a more sensible option to let Jota go, because if he could be 29 by the end of the season.
Yeah, I think he's around there, 27, 28.
I think he's 28 now. I think he's coming up onto 29. I think it might be a more sensible option in terms of Núñez could still be worth. If you go if you look if you look at the way our owners do business.
Well, yeah, but then
it's about getting money for players. So
more money out of Núñez.
Because if Núñez is still not firing in another season, he's still only 25, 26. You could still go and get 50 million for him, for 60 million, depending on how he's getting on.
Yeah.
Jota, by the time he's 30,
you'll get nothing.
You're getting 35 million for him.
It's whether you can replace him for the whatever money you'll get for. I doubt you'll get much for Jota now because of his injury records, even how good he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've spoke more than I like speaking here. I don't like it. My opinions. I like you getting abused.
No, I like you getting it back though.
No, already best. No, I
think. I don't know. I'm getting frustrated with the contract situation at the minute. I think that's at the minute whether or not Núñez is scoring. If Salah stays in the form he's in, and Diaz and Gakpo can contribute, and Jota can come in when he's fit, that's not my biggest concern at the minute. To be honest, my biggest concern at the minute is the looming contract thing, because.
It's appalling.
It's appalling. It's almost embarrassing. Do you know when you've got teams like Madrid interested in players like Trent? Now, your opinion on Trent's neither here or there, but you think if there's teams like Madrid interested in your best players and he could very well leave for free in the summer, why would you not be doing everything you could to get him tied down? It's and not just him. There's Salah and Van Dijk as well.
Do you see Robbie Fowler's take on it?
I think that's a good idea.
Makes sense, doesn't it, as well?
I think let's say what Robbie Fowler said is true. The more likely option is Salah and Van Dijk have signed, and I do think Trent's going in the summer. Yeah, personally,
I agree.
I don't want him to, but I think he is, and I think in his head he's already gone. I think Bellingham's flirted with him just enough, and it's enticed him.
Yeah, well, didn't work the other way around, so maybe you can hope that it hit him.
You can
there for him, but yeah, I don't see it happening now.
Like there was the rumours that the reason they hadn't managed to agree terms with Salah and Van Dijk is because Salah and Van Dijk wanted 3-year deals. The club had only been able to offer them 2-year deals. It makes you think, say Trent goes, does that then allow us to get Salah and Van Dijk on 3-year contracts? Would that be a better option? Because I think out of the three, I think Trent's the easiest one to replace. I think that's quite a common opinion.
Yeah, I think he's easier to replace with a right back. That's the thing. You never replace what he does going forward.
No, never.
Yeah, you could buy a very good right back in, and the team would probably still operate in a similar way. Whereas you lose the goals of Salah and the leadership and defensive qualities of Van Dijk, that's much harder to replace.
Because even if Salah's form over the next 2-3 seasons, let's say it does take a slight dip, and he only scores 15 and assists 15 in all competitions that season, you're still going to struggle to find someone who's got that output consistently. Yep. If Van Dijk stays fit, obviously as they get older, fitness is something you've got to think about, but there's some of the best athletes in the game at the minute, the pair of them, so it's like I don't think they're going to be struggling fitness wise.
Yep. No, but I think it's a fair argument. But I think I agree with you. Trent's most likely to go.
Yeah.
But again, we have to, just because it might come out in a few weeks and they may have already signed and you look stupid. But yeah, and from what we're saying
as
now,
of mid-January,
as of just before the Lille game,
yeah,
that's where we were.
We'll wait and see. I hope I'm wrong. I hope all three of them stay. I hope all three of them do. But
as Gerrard said after Istanbul, how can you leave the club on a night like this? So maybe we need a night like that.
Maybe
to tie the knot.
Maybe I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I'm so sorry to bring back that again, but at the same time, I think I don't know, it's going to be such a stupid thing to say, I know, but if that's what it's going to take for him to go, all right, no, actually, I won't, fuck off. It's like, well...
Yeah, you should know already.
Yeah.
But the argument with the Pull fans is that if you were in that position, you'd just stay, wouldn't you? If you're vice captain, you're set up to be captain.
You're guaranteed the armband in 2 or 3 years.
League. You're the hero for the fans, for younger fans, for everything. Yeah. You'd just stay, wouldn't you?
It just seems a stupid time to leave. I think that's the most frustrating thing for a lot of people is if it was like, if it was like, I don't know, if we were still not winning as we were under the likes of Rodgers and in the early days of Klopp, if it was still a bit like, will he, won't he? Then you go, yeah, you know what, fair enough, he's one of the best players in the world. Off you go, but it just seems like a mad time to leave and to do it on a free as well.
Yeah, well, I think if Klopp was still there, they all would have signed last
100%.
summer because Arne Slot came. They had almost a way out that if we were 12th,
Yeah.
it doesn't look as bad for them going
Yeah.
on a free, all of them. But then I think what's hurt Trent the most could be that we're unbelievable, and he's got his mindset on going to Real Madrid, and that'll make his reputation will go down so much further with Liverpool fans because of that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I think, as I say, I do think it'd be a weird time to leave, and I think leaving on a free as well. I think that's going to be what rubs a lot of people up the wrong way, because I don't know if there's any truth in it, but apparently he was offered a 6-year deal in 2021, and I don't know whether his agent advised him to, or he opted to just take a 4, because he only signed a 4-year extension. Yeah. So it does beg the question of has a potential exit been sort of a little bit pre-planned? He gets to 26, he's like, I'll see where I'm at, I'll see where the club's at. It just so happens when that time comes, Madrid are interested.
Yeah, well, and
makes you think.
The interview he did when he wants to win a Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, I thought that was a really weird answer.
Yeah.
I think whether he's at Liverpool or Madrid, I think if you look at what the Ballon d'Or is, when do you ever see a defender win it?
Well, that was his argument, and that makes him the best because he's won it. But you say, I think even as much as Salah gets abused for being self-centered or whatever, I don't think he would have answered that. Because his choices were to captain Liverpool, win the World Cup, win the Premier League, win the Ballon d'Or, and he picked that one. Yeah,
I think as well. I think if you look at it from, he's a defender. If you look at it from the point of view of a defender, when Van Dijk comes second in the Ballon d'Or runs that year after the season he had, if that's not enough to win a defender the Ballon d'Or, is Trent going to have an individual season where he looks better? I know obviously the different positions, so it's a very difficult comparison to make, but is Trent going to have a season that stands out individually as a defender more than the season Van Dijk had? I can't see it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's if he wants to go and play at Madrid, it is what it is, but I just think as a local player, very few local players ever come through to the first team and be successful. There's only a few you can probably name off the top of your head.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just seems weird. It's a very weird situation.
We'll move on from that then. I'll go straight into more Liverpool chat, and apologies for any non-Liverpool fans, but this question made me more interested is that
I'm
the next
very
one.
Passionate about
I'm on board with this one, but your thoughts on FSG will be my next question. Because it seems, again, no matter what you say, you will be wrong because people have such strong opinions on it.
Yeah, and it is the internet as well, so people do like to share opinions.
To add before in that, I haven't missed a home game since 2011.
Yeah.
The FSG out talk is never heard at Anfield, really. But when you're on Twitter, it's like you feel like 90% of the fan base wants them to go. So I think that is important to note. But obviously,
I think it is. I think it definitely is. I think obviously the fans who were in the ground on the day are the ones whose, not their opinions matter more, but they're probably the ones who you're more likely to listen to. They're in the ground and at the game. They're closer to the club.
There's no reason for that to be important. All I think is that, like, if you are a social media fan, I think you think the percentage of it is bigger.
100%.
So for like an opposition
100%.
fan or whatever, they might think everyone wants FSG.
100%. I think to be honest, I am more on the side of maybe it's time for them to sell up than I'm not. I'm not saying I'm completely on board with it, because you have got to look at the obvious thing of whether you agree or you don't, we've won everything underneath them. You can't really, you can't disagree with that, but that might not be a swaying factor for you. We have won everything under them, and the way they chose to run the club, whether or not people say, well, that was just down to Klopp, the success, that's all sort of here or there. You'll never know for sure, but I think the club's at a point now where they can't still be trying to run the club the way they were 5-6 years ago. Because when they initially bought the club, it was like I said before, it was the will they, won't they. We were looking like we were on the verge of becoming a world-class team. Then we did. So it's then, like, when you become a world-class team, you've got to sustain it. You don't just want to be a flash in the pan. Remember when they won the Champions League and then the league, and they won the Club World Cup and the Super Cup, and then what are they doing now? Oh, they're finishing 6th again now.
Yeah.
Like I think if you want to sustain being one of the biggest clubs in the world and one of the best clubs in the world, you've got to move with the game, and investment is key. And I think what does my head in a lot is when you see people again it's on Twitter, and people do chat a lot of shit, and I think whether or not you want to be one of these clubs who just throws money at it, because, you know, City get all the shit in the way for it. You never want to be one of them clubs, but if you've got players like Trent, Van Dijk and Salah, when you brought them in, they were promising. Now they are some of the best players in the world, and they have been for some time, so you've got to pay them what they're worth. You can't always use but it's Liverpool. Because to some players, it doesn't matter if another club's offering bigger money. They're gonna go. And I think not even just offering contracts to existing players, bringing players in. You look at players like, I'm not sure how you say his name, I think it's Kvaratskhelia, who's at Napoli.
Than I could ever do, yeah.
Unbelievable player.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely one of the better looking players in the world in his position at the minute. He's only young, I think he's 24.
Yeah.
Very young. He was available for, what did PSG pay for him? Was it
60, 70 mil?
Yeah, it was 80 million euros, probably about that, yeah. It's like, why are we, especially with the uncertainty around Salah, there's rumours that Luis Diaz isn't happy with his wages. I've not seen, it's not a concrete thing, but there's, you know, you've seen stuff. Well, apparently he's on about 55,000 a week, which obviously it's 55 grand. It is 55 grand a week, but you look at, he's a key player at one of the biggest clubs in the world. He's bound to be unhappy with that. You've got to look at it relatively to the situation he's in.
Who aren't as good as him on 5 times the money he's on.
Exactly, and it must be frustrating. He looks at Anthony at United. Is he on what, 250 grand a week? They paid the 100 mil for him. It's gonna piss players off, and you can't always expect players to want to stick around, because it's like, but you're playing for Liverpool. Because as I say, for some, if it might not be enough to convince Trent Alexander-Arnold, you can't bank on some Colombian fella staying because people sing a song for them. People want to be paid what they're worth at the end of the day.
Good song though.
It's one of the better ones. It's one of my favourites.
We had Andy Hodgson there who sings it as well. Yeah, he tells the story about that. So you share the account with the man who's like, I got it on then in the Anfield atmosphere. So a lot of people who go to the ground, away fans, I think come expecting to see the best atmosphere of the league. Yeah. Within 10 minutes, they're singing there's a library, where's your famous atmosphere?
Everybody does, though.
Other games they go to, if you go to a big European game, you don't hear that very often. So what is your take on, maybe say someone says to you the Anfield atmosphere is terrible, what would you say back?
I think there's two sides to it. There's obviously since the clubs grew, as it has over the last few years, with winning stuff, it does attract a lot more tourists who aren't going to get in, and they might not know the songs to sing them. You know, going to a Liverpool game, it is for some people, it's like a once in a lifetime thing. So you know you have got to factor that in. But I also think the club now is in a bit of a different sort of in a different stratosphere than it was going back 10 years. Like, we are one of the best teams in the world now. We're not like Liverpool who were boss and now they're all right. We are one of the best teams in the world. So it's like, I think it was Ipswich fans on the opening game of the season saying the atmosphere was terrible. Like, for those fans going to Anfield, that's probably one of the biggest clubs played in the history of their club. To us, it's a newly relegated team whose ground backs off terrace houses coming to it. So it's not a huge game, so the crowd probably aren't, because I know it's football and anything can happen on the day, but we are expecting to win that. So it's the atmosphere is not going to be up in arms. I think what games have I been to recently? Brighton and Leicester on Boxing Day was the last one I went to, and both the Brighton and the Leicester fans, as I say, about 10-15 minutes in, is it a library? Where's the atmosphere? All that, and then it's like as soon as all it takes there is sometimes for us to score, and then for the remainder of the game, it's a different story.
I think Carragher said as well, it's reactionary, and
it is.
I think that's the best bit. And we've had David John Jacks, who's from the Ragamuffins. He said the best Liverpool chant of all time is Liverpool, because it's not the best chant, but that's when the ground's at its best, and that's like you reacted to something. Because I think Klopp said as well, he prefers Liverpool fans to the Dortmund fans, but if you go to any Dortmund game, they'll sing for 90 minutes.
I think reactionary is the perfect word.
I think that's what it's about.
I think reactionary is the perfect word, because I think especially with how it's been the last 5 to 7 years, some of the football we played under Klopp and with us winning everything, maybe the fans do become a little bit spoilt in a sense of and I don't mean that in a bad way, but some of the fans who've been in the ground every week have probably been home and away everywhere. They've seen us win everything. So it's, if the team is playing shit, it maybe it is a little bit of score. And then because you're watching one of the best teams in the world, so it's like when they are, maybe when they're not firing the way they usually would, you've still got to get behind them. But it's like,
yeah. But I think, again, speaking for last season, two of the best atmospheres of last season were the Fulham game and the Luton game, which you would go to and not expect that. But both of them went behind, needed the crowd to get behind them, and then they step up. I say, but sometimes you could go to a 1-0 win against, I don't want to say whichever club, so a newly promoted team, let's say, and that could be the worst atmosphere of the season, although you've come out with 3 points, but like it's just because it's routine and it's done. Yeah,
I think it is. I think obviously, but it always seems to be like bottom half of the table teams as well when they come to Anfield, and as you say, I think they come in expecting it to be like from the whistle, it's just rowdy, and that's
like the Barca semi.
It's not the case, because it's like we've seen the team play some of the biggest games in the club's history in recent years. So it's like when it is an Ipswich at home, it's like, well, hurry up, let's just get it done and dusted.
Well, I'm going to give you 2 more Liverpool questions.
Okay.
First one will be, I'll go with the slightly stranger one, but is the thoughts on Brendan Rodgers?
I don't think he was as bad as a lot of people will make him out to be. I think toward his last 2 seasons, I'd say, like, time to move on. But you've got to look at the team Brendan Rodgers come into as well, and the time he took over the club, it was probably one of the darkest times the club's had in the last 20 years. We just come from like Hodgson. And like we were in, the club was in a terrible place. When Gillette and whoever still owns
Gillette mix with so like they got rid of Rafa.
Roy
comes in.
It was a mad time.
Obviously Kenny comes just because I can hear my dad saying this.
Yeah.
He'll say Kenny come in and set up the ship, and then Rodgers had somewhere to come on from. That's the only thing I'd say in return to that. But I think it still wasn't a very good team, and they were finishing 6th.
It was just a bit of a rough patch, and that's not even. I don't think that's a stain on Brendan Rodgers at all. I think it was just, he was. As I say, I think Liverpool fans, there is an expectation of the club, and when you are finishing 6th for most teams in the league, that's an unbelievable season. But when you're Liverpool, you want to be in the top 4, fighting for top. You don't want to be fighting for top 4, finishing 6th. So as I say, I don't think Brendan Rodgers was a bad coach. I just don't think he had a very good team, and I don't think the club was in a very good place at the time.
But that season, and Liverpool come 2nd, I think
it was unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. No matter how bad it was, I think you'd still have to rank it as one of the best seasons we've seen, because it was so unexpected. I think, especially the earlier Klopp ones, because you were like, oh my god, we're in a Champions League final, oh my god, we're in a title race, and that one was even less expected. So I do think he gets a bit of a bad reputation for possibly bringing one of the best seasons that a modern era Liverpool fan had ever seen, definitely at that point, and maybe even still.
Coutinho in those days as well I loved him when he was at us.
Sorry, not Salah. Suarez, Sturridge, Coutinho, Sterling. That front 4 was pretty good.
I absolutely adored Felipe Coutinho. You know, when he was at Liverpool, he was one of those players you don't very often get a player like that at Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? Like him going to Barca, I know it didn't work out for him to the best at Barcelona, but he was a Barcelona player, you know, when you seen him playing at Liverpool, and he was just, the way he played football was unbelievable. He's one of my favourite Liverpool players ever. Like, I just love him. I think the way he played footy was so it was so unique the way he played. I thought he was brilliant. Loved Coutinho back in the day.
Boss player. Yeah, definitely. And I think Klopp said to him he'd have stayed, he'd have had the statue.
He would have done.
He probably still regrets that now.
He left at the worst time.
But then if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't have got Van Dijk, Alisson and all that. So
it's very true. It's
everything happens for a reason.
It's a sweet that, isn't it?
Last question then on Liverpool would just be, if there was one trophy for Liverpool to win this season, and again, at time of recording, still in all 4 competitions, looking good in all of them, other than a first leg loss to Tottenham, but which would be the most important trophy or the best trophy to win?
I think this season you've got to say the Premier League. For me personally, some people say the Champions League, but I think from the perspective of us having a new manager this season, he's done amazingly. I don't think anybody in the world would have predicted that, Liverpool fans or not. But I think if Slot comes in and wins the Premier League in his first season, I think that's much more impressive than coming in and winning the Champions League in his first season. But the Champions League, you do play less games as well. The Premier League, it's like it's almost grueling at times. You know, when you play it like you're playing league games like 4 days apart and stuff like that. It's tough. I think if he comes in and wins the Premier League in his first season, I think it's much more impressive. And also, I think we're due a league title. I really do. I think, you know, we've got to question some of the legitimacy of Man City in the last few years, where we probably, you know, probably should have won the league. I think I'd like to see us win the league more as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, I think Salah said as well, is every season he writes his aims down and doesn't tell them what they are. But he said number one for every season has been win the Champions League, apart from this season where win the Premier League, because he felt like he knew the fans would appreciate it more. I think if you ask most Liverpool fans,
I think he's spot on there as well.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I think it's a perfect way to sort of welcome Slot in as well, because I think a lot of coming like. Getting a new manager after Klopp, it was like going through a breakup and then you meet a new bird and like she's lovely, but you're a bit like, well, you know, like the last one fucked off, so I don't want to get too close. You know what I mean? Yep. But I think because you know what I mean as well. So Slot could be one of them. He might not look at himself being at Liverpool for another 7-8 years like Klopp did. He might think I'll come in, win what I can win, fuck off elsewhere. You really,
Trent at Real Madrid.
Yeah, you really never know. But I think winning the Premier League in the first season, and then I think if Slot sees the way the fans react to that, because if we win the league this year, you're going to see a parade along the Albert Dock, I think similar to the one we've seen a few years back, and I think if Slot sees that in his first season, I think that sets us up for a lovely few years under him. That I really do. I really do.
Well, I tell you what, we'll go straight into comedy now as well, then if that's okay. And obviously you're a comedian. First of all, what's the best way for people to watch you, follow you, and how to people watch you do comedy? At the minute, to be honest, I'm not really. I'd never post too much on Instagram anyway. You can get me on Instagram. It's Danny Davies Comedian. You just keep an eye out for what gigs I'm doing. I'm sort of just. We're not doing the podcast at the minute, so I've took a little bit of a break from that. So you'd have to just, if you want to come and see me, it'll be live somewhere. Yeah, and then so. Because you mentioned about the podcast, we're allowed to talk about that coming to an end, yeah? So does that mean you're in the transfer market looking for a new podcast, or are you taking a step back?
I'm a free agent. Do you know what? To be honest, at the minute, I don't really know. I think that doing the podcast for so many years, I'm not really in too much of a rush to jump straight back into doing that all the time. But you know, if somebody wants me to come on a podcast as a guest, I'm always happy to. Yeah, as you can see, I enjoy it. But yeah, at the minute, I'm just sort of, I've got a few ideas of things that I want to do, and not doing the podcast sort of frees up a little bit more time to try some other things as well. So I'm just going to see what happens.
I don't want to ask all the most obvious comedy questions, like you say. It's boring for you to say, as it is for people to listen. But like, so what's been the pinnacle of your comedy so far, and what is your like big aim that you're going for? I think the pinnacle for me, it's not even a gig, but it's just something that happened that would never have happened if I wasn't doing comedy. I smoked a joint with Dave Chappelle, and it's still to this day the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. It beats any gig that I've ever done as well. Like, there's some gigs which have been some of the best nights of my life, but purely because of that, like, I'd have to say that's probably the pinnacle for me. I love that so far. So obviously I like my own career outside of that. I don't just want to like, but the goal, to be honest, I just like to make a living doing comedy. That's, you know, I'd like to just be able to sustain a family, live comfortably, and sort of do it just my own way, which is hopefully stand-up comedy. Yeah. As you know, I'll come back to the podcast at some point, but for the meantime, I'm gonna see how far I can take it with the stand up. And describe yourself to someone, or like not in a horrible like sell yourself way, but why should someone go watch you? Like, what's your style of comedy?
To be honest, I try to just be. I don't want to sound like a twat saying it, you know. I just try to, but I don't know. I try to just be quite open when I'm on stage. I don't know. I try not to put too much of an act on when I'm on stage. So if like, that's why obviously when I was doing the podcast and I was doing shows at the comedy club and that, it fed into it because I was sort of, I'd never go on stage and play like a character. Like some people do, and it's not a bad thing. It just works for some people.
We have Marlowe McCabe here, obviously.
Yeah.
He's probably the most famous character player. People don't play like people play a subtle character. He plays a proper character. You're just yourself.
If you like me, you might find me funny. that's it. I think.
Yeah, do you do contract talk in your set or not?
Trent
Sullivan.
I try to keep that just to I don't know. I'll be sat down with my brother, and I'll just grill in with it for a bit. But yeah, I don't know. As I said, I try to leave the footy alone on stage purely because as well it's impossible to. I know you try not to, but I think when you're talking about football, it is almost impossible, no matter who you support, to not be a little bit biased sometimes because you've got that sort of. You feel like it's a personal affliction to either a certain team or a certain player. So I try to leave it out because then it'll distract me from the rest of my set then, and it'll just be a 15 minutes. So what do you reckon, lad? So you reckon Lampard's better, do you? It's just not the time for it.
All right, well, if that's okay, we'll call full time on the interview there, and just obviously, so you've already mentioned your Instagram. Was that the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, more than likely.
Anything you want to plug, anything you want people to do, or just give you the follow on there and come
I mean, you can follow the podcast Instagram. It's just What's Happening Pod on Instagram. I think it's What's Happening Pod or What's Happening Podcast on TikTok as well, I think.
Yeah.
There's the YouTube as well. I'll be posting stuff on there, like shit that I'm up to and places I'm going to and things I'm doing, but it won't be podcast related content, so it'll be more behind the scenes stuff.
It's not the end, is what you'd say.
We'll see. I don't know. I think
like a boy band, you just go on your own way.
Yeah. We're all gonna go into our own biopic, and then we're gonna do a comeback tour. It's gonna be great. But no, I don't know at the minute, to be honest. As I say, we were doing the podcast for 3 years, so I think after a while and we didn't do anything like this either where we had like a set topic to talk about. It'd either be the four of us or the two of us in the studio, and we may or may not have a guest in, and it'd be like we're just gonna chat shit and see if it's. So it's like if I can come up with something with a bit of a structure and a bit, I'll definitely do it. But for the time being, I'm just happy doing comedy.
All right, boss. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming back.
Yeah.
We might see you again, another quiz or something like that.
100%. 100%.
Get those crisps back out for
you. Yeah, them Poppadom crisps you had last time. I don't know where you got them from, but they were insane, mate. They were phenomenal.
I'll source them next time.
I really hope you can. All
right, well, nice one. Thank you again for coming.
Thanks again for having me, mate.
And thank you for watching the Football Historian Podcast.
Locking eyes from across the room, heart is pounding. What have I have to lose? This kind of feeling tends to blur your sight. Is it love?